We ready? I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Dayton Independent Board of Education, and we will not stand, but we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, I know Ron sent in a text that he can't connect. I'm wondering if Nicole as well is struggling. So
I'm on here, Jay. I've been on
there
here,
you go.
Jay.
There you are, the NP. There you go. NP's on. All right. It's just RK that we're looking for. All right.
All right. Then we'll have the roll call.
Roseanne Sharon.
Yes, ma'am.
Bernie Pfeffer.
Yes, ma'am.
Diane Huff.
Yes, ma'am.
Carrie Downard.
Yes, ma'am.
We're all here.
Okay. Then, Mr. Brewer, I think you have some recognition.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We recognize Teresa Facette as our Employee of the Month. Of course, our mission is to inspire, engage, and grow, even though school buildings, I like to say school buildings were closed, but school certainly wasn't. And Teresa did an amazing job, not only through NTI, but for those of you who have watched her over her 27-year teaching career, teach our littlest little devils. Just an amazingly talented and thorough teacher. I have the pleasure of reading in her room multiple times to the little ones, and I'm always amazed at how she continues to pull in all kinds of different learning opportunities for each child at an individual level. Her ability to take a group of kids that haven't had a whole lot of formal structure in school settings and develop those routines and consistencies is just amazing. So Teresa is retiring this year after 27 years, but I do believe, as I told her, there's other chapters to be written for her. She has a lot to offer school systems and children's and families. So I'm sure she'll find a niche somewhere doing great things. So we want to congratulate Teresa Facette as our Inspire, Engage, and Grow Employee of the Month.
All right. Then we'll move on to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Diane.
I was just saying congratulations, Teresa.
Yeah.
We'll move on to our consent agenda, and you've had time to look that over. And I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Bernie moved and Diane seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then we'll have our reports and we'll move into Mr. Myers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome, everybody. Good to see everyone. Just want to start off with some good news on our graduation numbers there. We're looking at 58 out of 62 of our senior class that is now going to receive their diploma. So very excited about that number. So that leaves us at 93.5, which is ahead of the state average. And we're still encouraged. We have 2 students out there at this time right now that are still working diligently. Staff is supporting them and doing everything possible to get those 2 students across the finish line. So they have until about June the 12th. And that is still a very much a possibility. And we're going to do what we can to help facilitate their needs and give them the support necessary. So if we could end up with those numbers, with those 2 students, that would put us at 96.7, which would be outstanding. Even if we finish at 93.5 where we are right now, I do want to point out how grateful I am to our staff. You can't imagine the mountains they move, what they do for our kids to really make this possible. And I'm very proud of our staff and, of course, of our students. First and foremost, our students, because they overcome, some of them, if you know their stories and what they overcome, it's amazing. And it's just really a gratifying time of year. And I'm excited for them. So we're encouraged that we'll end up hopefully we'll end up get a couple more across that finish line. But right now we're at 58 out of 62 and still working. So want to let you know where we are now. We did conclude our NTI days.
I want to pause there, Scott, just on the graduation numbers. I don't want that to go by lightly. I do want to thank our team for their effort on that. I know we meet often throughout the school year, specifically talking about where individuals are, and that's you and Mr. Wright and Jessica Wendland, our counselor, and that also includes Ron Kinman, our DPP, and coach who hunts down kids, and really kudos to Rick Wolf, who puts together amazing spreadsheet that allows us to track kids and do those things. But your execution, Scott, of that is tremendous, and I want to congratulate our board as well. I went back and looked 8 years ago. We had 33 kids graduating from Dayton High School, and we've come a long way in our journey here. And really, we haven't increased our student enrollment by maybe 30 or 40 kids from that time. So a large part of that piece was when we were an early adopter to the required graduation of 18 years of age. If you recall when that came by, you guys didn't hesitate and jumped on that. And ever since then, we have seen the number of graduates getting out there from Dayton increasing over the years. So not sure if we'll ever get it to be double what we were back then, but we're closing in on it. So just kudos to really the whole Dayton school community for getting that number up to that point. So nearly doubling what we were 8 years ago. So bravo, bravo.
And I want to echo what Mr. Brewer said there. All those people he pointed out, team members, it's so true. And thank you to each of them that was mentioned. We have an outstanding team and lucky to work with such fantastic.
And I certainly don't want to overlook, I didn't mention them, and I'm like, our teachers. I mean, the teachers that really make those connections and relationships with kids, and don't let them give up on themselves, because we all need that champion in our corner, and by golly, our teachers are champions for our kids. So thank you to them as well.
And I will point out here, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. We also have one of our students included in these numbers who has earned an alternative certification. Unfortunately, KDE does not recognize that. So in my mind, I recognize it as 59 out of 62, but we operate under KDE, and this is what they say. But I think that that student certainly deserves that recognition. And so I want to point that out. That's really 59 in that way. And so those are the guidelines, and that's what it is. But I thought that's worth mentioning as well. I do want to say our report cards, we're hoping to get those out. We've been working hard this week. Ms. Wendell has really been getting after it in our guidance department, and I think there's a good chance. I was thinking the week of June 1st, but looking at the end of this week, early next week, so report cards will be coming out very soon. We are now in the midst of planning summer school. It's going to look a little bit different this year, obviously, just as many things have. So we are constantly adapting, evolving, and we're working on those plans, looking at some type of virtual, possibly with some of the restrictions being lifted a little bit more flexibility. Might be able to bring in groups of 10 into the building. So we'll make some of those final decisions here shortly. But we're looking at having a combination of virtual or some small groups in the building beginning the week of June the 8th. So we're working on that. Excited about that. During this time right now, just a little update on what our staff has been doing since NTI ended on the 13th. They are working on Google training. I'll have to say I'm working on that myself. It's quite a challenge for a novice like myself. But it's great. It's a great learning tool, make you a better educator, and I do enjoy it. And I will say one of the silver linings of the NTI time was staff, students, everybody has been challenged with having to learn new things. And I think that makes everybody better. And so we are, as a district, working on Google training. That takes about 5 days. Our staff has been working hard to update academic plans. Mr. Wolf, Mr. Wright have been doing an outstanding job of giving feedback to staff and making sure those are up to snuff for next year. And then, of course, staff is coming in on their own at their own times, discretion, and following all the protocol for safety and cleaning out their rooms, getting ready for summer break. So that's kind of where we are with that. I will point out we had our students come down last Thursday and Friday, the 14th and 15th of May, to pick up their belongings from their lockers and drop off their devices. As of right now, we have, if Casey can correct me if I'm wrong, and talked to him yesterday, we were sitting about 83% of our devices being returned at this point, a little bit better than 83, right at the 84% range. So that's pretty good. And
You'll be at 85 tomorrow. I saw one just as I was walking in. She's like, I know we got to get that down here. I said, get it down here. We're here.
We're working hard at that. And Casey's got a system there where we're going to go out and do our best to retrieve the rest of them. So that was very encouraging numbers and happy to see that. We did have Teacher Appreciation Week during the month of May, and that was exciting. And teachers received pens and some heartfelt letters of appreciation and course of science, which I'm sure some of you have seen out there on social media. Our seniors as well have had signs delivered at home, and I want to thank Miss Hands for all of her work with that. She's been great with doing that, so thank you. We had one of the things we're doing for our seniors, and I'm really excited about, is the senior picture, senior video that we were working on this Monday and Tuesday. Thank you to Ms. Ponning and Mrs. Hands for having some really nice taste and helping us dress it up, because I certainly am not one to generate great ideas, but they really helped that come along, and it's really turned out nicely. And I'm very excited for our seniors and their families to be able to see those. I think it's going to be great, and so that's very nice. In fact, you always worry how these things can go, and people don't realize the amount of planning that takes place. But we had 53 students over the past 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, come in their caps and gowns, receive their stoles, cords, etc., and get their pictures, which is fantastic. And we're excited about that. So I think that's one thing that's I saw on Twitter when our teacher said this is a great new tradition. So apparently we're starting a new tradition here at Dayton High School, but it's going to turn out very, very nice. I will point out that during this time we've been able to hire all of our staff for next year at this point, hoping we don't lose anybody from here forward. But first I want to thank the people that did serve for us this year. We did lose some very good teachers and people and fine people, but we're very excited about the people we have coming in next year, and feel like we're going to be ready to go come this fall. And I do want to mention we at the high school do have 2 retirees at the high school, and that's Mrs. Spar, our teacher, and Mrs. Brandenburg, and those 2 have been in the building for a long time and have made tremendously positive contributions to our school, to our district, and especially to our students. And both of them will be greatly missed. I'll miss working with them on a personal level, but I'm happy for each of them, and well deserved as they go into the next phase of their life. So congratulations to Mrs. Spar and Mrs. Brandenburg. That's all I have for tonight. And any questions?
Nope. Thank you, Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
And Ms. Dragon, you're next.
I don't know at this point if it's a disadvantage or an advantage going after Scott, because he just basically said almost every single thing I was saying. And not really, I'm not kidding. Or a disadvantage because now it's like, I feel like I'm going to repeat myself. All the great things about our teachers and staff, they've been unbelievable. If you want to refer to my report, one thing that was different, obviously, at the high school versus the elementary school was all of our work was paper pencil. So you'll see there so far the percentage of NTI packets returned by our students. They actually continue to roll in. So these numbers were from over the weekend, but our students continue to bring their folders in. So we are very impressed with the high turnout of return. And then you can be reassured that our teachers have reviewed that work from students. Oh, sorry. And then just a note about our last distribution day. on May 8th. So we gave out all kinds of goodies on that day, including our student medals. We couldn't obviously do our end of the year award ceremony, so we gave out our student medals. And then our focus for the last NTI work was geared towards summer learning. So instead of just doing a couple days there, our teachers really focused on putting some great activities and things together for our students for summer learning. You'll also notice on my report our great participation rate during the 6 weeks of NTI. So that is, I'm sure Rick will talk about that data in his report, but I'm very proud of that. I do want to just extend my sincere gratitude to our classified staff members that they have stayed involved all through this time by delivering foods, preparing all the packet materials. They're the ones that have been hands-on and, right there. And they've been collaborating with teachers. And again, I can't say enough for all of their hard work. They've worked extremely, extremely hard. Our teachers, as I just mentioned, at the end of the school year, have delivered goodie bags to every single home for our students. Our 5th grade finished up today. And so our students receive things from books to yard signs to t-shirts. And so every student received something special going into the summer from their teachers. Let's see, just during these 6 weeks of NTI, we all worked really hard to keep our staff and families involved. Obviously, you can see that through our participation rate. But we held a couple car parades. We did a virtual Spirit Week. We did a virtual book fair. We did teacher and staff appreciation card collection. So the kids and families really came through by writing and providing our teachers and staff with some really great things for that week. And again, a lot of what Scott said, our report cards are getting finished and they will be mailed out by the end of next week. Lincoln's hired all of our staff for next school year so far. And everything that Scott outlined as far as the teacher work days, our staff is doing the exact same thing, our teachers. So that's all I have.
Yeah. I just want to say kudos when Heather says, I think sometimes we bounce through some of those things. And she said teachers made gift bags for all the students. And that's relationship building and just phenomenal. Not only do they make the gift bags, they deliver them, they visit with them. And that sets up a lot of foundational work for when they come back, because there's going to be a lot of that relationship building that's going to need to occur. I mean, our kids are going to be out of school for nearly 6 months. And that's going to be quite an adjustment for them and for us when we do come back. So kudos to the LES team. The car parade's 100% staff participation. The work with NTI has been incredible. We just got the update, and I teasingly kid Mr. Wolf because he loves those C-SIPs and C-DIPs and all those plans that we put together. And I keep saying, Rick, nowhere in our C-DIP and C-SIP was there a pandemic and an NTI shutdown. So, we really failed to predict that one at the beginning of the school year. But we'll do better this year. So, as far as predicting pandemics in the plan. So, but honestly, kudos to our entire school staff for pulling that off. Great job. There's always some stumbling that occurs anytime you go from, I like to say, we went from being a in-house restaurant to a delivery service pretty much overnight. So kudos to our team. Extremely proud of the work that they've done.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wolf.
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Good, Rick.
Hey, Bernie. So Heather was referencing the participation rates. So that's not on my board report that I submitted because all of our NTI documentation was due to KDE today. So a couple of hours ago, I uploaded all that. I will email you guys once I'm finished with my report here, and I'll share our district participation rate. So we had to share with them weekly what our participation rate was for our students and our teachers. So I'll send you what our student participation rate was based on each building and district. As far as my report, So one thing on there I wanted to mention was ACT, our district ACT that was supposed to be on March 24th is rescheduled for June 2nd. I called ACT the end of last week and they said they're still planning to have that ACT. They are shipping materials to us. We have 20 students signed up to take that. So I briefly mentioned something to Ron and Scott and Chris. If we do have that test, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to practice the healthy at work guidelines there. So I will be in touch if we have that or not.
One of the things, Rick, not to chime in, but one of the things Rick and I talked about was possibly just setting up in the gymnasium where we could still do social distancing and still make sure that we offer that and meet the healthy at work requirements.
I was going to say that years ago, we used to put 150 kids in the gym and test all the 8th graders at the same time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't air conditioned.
Yeah. So we'll probably have to
I know,
do
Rick,
something.
with accommodations, you have to think about the kids who get accommodations. Those will probably need to be.
There's not anybody receiving accommodations.
Okay. So
There
no
was
leaders.
one individual who no longer is.
Okay.
So, but other than that, I know when we get to the NTI application, I can walk you guys through that. Was there any questions about anything that was on my report? No.
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I'll talk with you again once we get to the NTI application.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Mr. Kinman.
Hello. I'm having a rough time with technology. I'm actually doing this through my phone. I would have never dreamed I would have been able to do this through my phone, but my computer wouldn't connect.
It's okay. You're fine.
Real quickly, obviously, student attendance, has to do with our NTI participation. I want to give kudos to Mr. Wolf because he's really led that charge, and that's kind of been out of my realm of handling. So really don't have anything for attendance right now. And then transportation, obviously, we don't have anything. But I do want to commend, just as someone who's been involved in working through this process, our staff has been fabulous in dealing with all the roadblocks that have been placed and all the difficulties that have been created because of this COVID-19. We put into place last week the Healthy at Work, and all of our employees really did a great job of going to the temperature check station, getting their temperatures checked, and complying with the standards that we put in place. And nobody's been complaining. People have been wearing their mask, and they've been doing a great job of following those guidelines. So I just want to let you all know that our staff, once again, has showed their willingness to cooperate and work to take care of our families and our students. We've had so many staff members, especially from Lincoln, down there stuffing bags and delivering food, and they didn't skip a beat when we put those measures in place. So I just want to, again, say kudos to all the workers that have been here each and every day. As far as facility-wise, we've been doing some general work. The unit ventilators will be, hopefully, will be completed by the end of this week. They're insulating pipes right now, and that should be completed. And then they'll finish the controls work by the end of the month. And we should have that, finally, the guaranteed energy savings contract completed, and we will be able to start measuring our savings. And then the other thing with custodial and disinfecting the stuff, we ordered that unit. It's called the Protexus backpack for disinfecting. It should be in by the end of the month as well, and hopefully we can start utilizing that in June and learning how to disinfect more quickly. I don't have anything else at this time, but
I just want to say I appreciate Ron has stepped up, and he's glowingly wearing the title of Healthy at Work Officer. And that's Officer Kinman here on the campus. So I tell Ron that, if you think about where schools have gone in, say, just the last 10 years, as far as, with school safety and security, it's almost getting close to being like prison status, where you got to have the lockdowns and the locks and the cameras and the entries into the school. So I say we need to be as safe and secure as a prison. Now we need to be as clean as a hospital, but we need to be as inviting and welcoming as Disneyland. So his challenge is to take all three of those and make them happen at one time. So he's working on It's a Small World being pumped through all the buildings as we speak. So kudos to Ron and everything he's doing. And it's going to get even more complicated and complex as we sit on these weekly updates from KDE and what the protocols will be when students do enter the buildings. It's going to be an increased training, preparation, making sure everything's in place like we've never seen. So, but we'll be ready. We've got a great team, and like I say, our team's pretty nimble. We kind of go with the flow and just make it happen. Our Healthy at Work officer, certainly kudos to him for keeping us all COVID free at this time. So,
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr.
Rob.
Kinman. And Ms. Ponting, you're next.
Hello. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hello.
I don't hit that much. But I should say our daycare report, we did receive CCAP money and the CARES Act fund, which has really helped during this time. Also, there's cleaning and improvements up there have been going on, and we are going to offer meals and snacks next year through our food service. So we're going to continue that again next year. With preschool, again, congratulations to Teresa. She has been wonderful and will be sorely missed. So we just wish her the best of luck and thank her for everything she has done for our little devils. The partnership grant is going to not be available next year, but we still have pretty much funds to spend. So I am looking at, today I actually spent some time working on the second phase of the playground area that we're going to do. So I was on the phone with some representatives and planning that out. So that's going to be, I think, one of the major projects with the rest of the funds, as well as buy all the books for next school year for our book to continue our book a week program. Special ed teachers are again participating in the end of the year Google certification as well. Again, I can't express how proud I am of them. Our preschool, our related service, all of our teachers stepped up. And it was so, at times it was been very difficult to reach those kids and monitor the goals they're supposed to be monitoring, but they went above and beyond to work with their regular ed teachers and other outlets to create curriculum and resources for those students. So again, I want to give all our special ed staff kudos for really doing a great job. And we just continue to try to plan for next year. It's difficult at this time, as all of my team can attest to that, because we don't know what's happening day to day. But we're doing our best to hire good people and continue to deliver good services to our students.
Okay, thank you.
Bravo, thank you.
And Mr. Brewer, you're up for food service.
Food service, 1,200 meals a day. So being delivered twice a week to our students. Just kudos to Chef Pam and her amazing crew over there, and to Gina, Bird, Georgia, and Tracy for executing that. There's so many individuals, it's hard to thank them all. But those are kind of the spearhead of the team there that basically continues to step up and do a great job of providing those needed, I'm going to say, nutrients. And that's a really important line to draw versus calories, so our kids are getting the proper nutrients. We do anticipate continuing the model through June. We are going to make some modifications in July a bit and go a little bit away from the extensive meal prep that's going on as far as the cooking of the things, and go to some simpler items in July as we try to give our food service team a reprieve here. They really have continued to work and grind harder than ever. The highlight for a food service team member, and the reason they do that has been taken away from those, and that's seeing the kids every day. And, so now they're just behind the scenes every day, doing the food, working with each other. So I think the grind is a little bit harder because they don't have that moment where they get to see the kids. And if you've seen our cafeteria staff and the way in which they relate with the kids, you'll understand what I mean by that. So kudos to them. The budget looks good. We continue to climb upward and onward. I think we had another $10,000 gain this month. So our balance looks like we're going to project at the end of the school year and be fine. But keep in mind, we're still waiting for the numbers to come really solidly in on how this is all worked out. But that number of 1,200 meals a day is right on average of what we were serving during the school year. So compared to some other districts, they're going to see their numbers possibly drop considerably and still have to pay the same staff. And that's where they're going to need to tap into the CARES or the GEARS funds to kind of bail food service out. Since our food service model, we anticipate, and again, that's a key word, anticipate, is going to hold on their own. We won't need to use our CARES and our GEARS for that. We'll be able to put it into other areas such as the big 300,000 plus technology that we don't have to use money or a lot of money in the food service. So kudos again to that team.
All right, then we'll move on to our action items.
Action item number 7A, we've got to appoint a new school board member. We know that the process for school board members have changed. Brett Newspickle had a resignation, had some things change in his professional life and needed to create some balance there. So I believe at this time we're looking for nominations from the board.
So move to nominate Lori is a new school board member for Dayton Independent Schools.
Okay, so that we have a motion to appoint Lori Peterson as our new school board member. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
That's Carrie that's seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then Lori, if you're watching, congratulations on being our new school board member, and we will see you in some form at the next board meeting.
Yep. All right, that's exciting news. Welcome aboard. Lori's been a great volunteer and a great parent and a great Green Devil graduate. So she'll bring a nice perspective and some experience volunteering and working in our school district. So looking forward to working with Lori, that's for sure. 7B is approval of the 2021 tentative working budget. We have the wonderful Trish Gosney here on the video to kind of walk through all the details.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can see you.
You can see me? Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Well, we're ready for the next year again, but there's so much happened since the January budget. And there's so many unknowns we don't know about coming up as well. So it's here and there.
Again, Trish failed to see a pandemic when she created the January budget. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yes. The CARES money, we talked about those, comes to about $384,000. And KD's given us guidelines on each section. There's the GEARS and then the ESSER. We have to do some sort of budgeting, not in detail, but kind of prioritize how we want to use those funds, either as emergency needs or unforeseen future needs. So we have to, as the months progress, we'll try to keep everybody updated on those funds. Starting out, I'm estimating about $1,740,000 carryover, but I think it'll be a little higher because everything comes through sometimes in July at the last minute, and we don't know what the actual numbers will be when they come through because they're like some of the delinquent taxes and things like that. So. Revenues total 6.6 million. There's not a lot of change on here. I didn't put any tax estimations till we levy that. The PVA's preliminary numbers show an increase of 33 million in the general property assessments. Mainly that's from the Gateway Flats, the new condos on O'Fallon, and the reassessment
the city, the district quadrant. So I'm not even sure how this pandemic is going to affect the assessment and the collection of taxes. So even though I still think we're going to be able to lower our tax rate for sure. I'm not sure how the appeals are going to come back, if there's going to be a lot of reductions in the assessment, but we'll still be able to lower our rate for next fall. And then the SEEK will of course be reduced. Once your assessments goes up, your SEEK will be lower calculation, which we should be fairly good there because they kind of watch each other out, but we will have some new property rate tax revenue. So that is a plus. The new property counts as a plus. Those are the two main revenues for our district. So, and then we have the Tapestry IRB coming through with the bigger assessment, and I'm thinking about 150,000 revenue coming in on that. I didn't put anything in the budget for the newer, the second IRB that we just signed here. Kind of hold off and see how that comes through. Hopefully they come through with the contract so we make sure. Let's see, interest rates, as you know, they are dropping. Last year, we earned about $62,000 in interest with our checking and our CDs. This year, I'm just putting $7,000 in for revenue because I don't know, like we're going from 0.3 or 2.5 interest rate probably last November, October. Now we're at 0.25. So it's not looking good there. So maybe it'll start rising back up after this all shakes off, I'm hoping. And then on to expenditures, we've got a total budget of $7.5 million, which includes all the step increases. Salary and fringes are about 80% of our budget, which includes the state on behalf figures too. So when all the staff raises are in there that we gave last fall. Just talking about, what else have I got notes here on? We don't know about future cuts from the state, so we kind of have to watch our money efficiently with the pandemic and then the state possibly cutting us. So we don't, maybe by the fall, we'll have some sort of updates on those things, I'm hoping. We have a contingency about 900,000, which is 9.2% of our budget, which is a good number. I feel real good about that. Fund 2 grants are still coming through. The federal grants came through a little more than this year, so I think we'll be slightly up there. State grants, we're not sure of those numbers yet. Food service, we talked about that a few minutes ago, trying to build up our balance there. Keep going like we're going, delivering the 1,000 meals a day. Daycare, we're going to get a few dollars from the care funds for them as well. So that helped them stay solid, I think, at the end. There's a new fund in there, Fund 25, which is a requirement for accounting for GASB 84, which everybody hates to even talk about it, but it's the school activity funds have to be reported in the general fund books as far as expenses and revenues. Some districts are switching them straight to Munis, which is what we operate our accounting system here. Then they wouldn't have their own separate bank account or anything. They'd still be in control of their money, but it would all be through our accounting system. So that helps with the school report card. So when those expenses and revenues show up, it goes right on the report card, because currently it does not even show. Their expense or revenues do not show on the school report cards. So that's something we're looking at for future. Right now, this year, we'll make a journal entry to report them as like lump sum, like fundraisers as revenues and whatever for expense. I mean, we have to separate codes, but we won't be as a great a detail as they are right now. So, but that's future. We'll talk more about that later, I guess, if they make us switch. But overall, I think we're in great shape with our monies, and we should be good to go until we hear what else happens later from the state and everywhere. So,
yeah, I mean,
okay.
Trish and the whole team, Ron tunes in a lot on the finance end, and Rick as well. I highly encourage them, and they're very receptive to listening in to the superintendent webcasts that we have. And then we huddle back in the next day after listening to them for 2 to 3 hours. And what did you hear? What did you not hear? Because when you sit on these things, sometimes you have a tendency to start counting ceiling tiles, and all of a sudden you miss something. It's like, did I hear that right? And then I heard this and I heard that. And it changes depending on who's on the telecast too. So one day it's this and one day it's that, and those types of things. But having Trish here is always such a strength for us to work with that. And I appreciate her patience with me as I continue to try to sort all this out, and appreciate Rick and Ron and Nicole as well. Them always looking for ways to, stretch the dollar, so to speak. And then I know our 2 building principals are on here. I appreciate their insight into. I really never feel like I always feel like they understand that, even though sometimes funds come in different things, and some schools like to say, well, this is a pot of money over here and this is a pot of money over here. Well, it all really is one pot in the end. So it all kind of ends up there. So, and they do a great job of helping us be fiscally responsible as well. So it is, questions that you guys have on the tentative working budget for 2021? All right.
Trish, we don't know what the seat calculations are going to be at this point because of the assessed value going up.
No, I don't. I haven't ran that actual spreadsheet, but I know it'll be probably maybe 60,000 less. I can't remember. I did it one time, and now I can't.
I just noticed that our carryover is going to take a hit for approximately a little over 800,000 for the next fiscal year, and of course we don't have the new IRB involved in or figured in that, but that's a pretty big hit.
Yeah,
Yes.
we also don't have the new property assessments in there as well. So that's a great observation. And as I went down, we talked to Trish as well. We always talk about that gap, and she says that's not unique for where we are at this time of year. So I tend to sometimes panic when I see that gap.
Bernie, one of the things that Trish and I talk about all the time is when we talk about our SEEK forecast for our enrollment for the upcoming year, we always keep that as low as we can without being fraudulent, really, because we want to make sure that we know that we're going to get at least that much revenue. So we're always very conservative in our projected enrollment, just to account for possibly a loss of students, when in reality, we really aren't losing students every year right now, but we always keep that number really low. So we project revenue low just to be safe.
And, well, projected revenue low because the number of students, but also with the increased assessment, the dollar amount per student is going to go down.
Correct. Yes, we are losing state funds because local funding will increase. So it'll be an interesting school year on a lot of levels fiscally for not only us, but everybody. So, one of the interesting things will be enrollment, in August. We my understanding, we have not had a kid enroll or withdraw since March. And that's not uncommon for all schools. So, normally from March until May, we would have Ron, 30 to 40 kids in and out?
In and out, absolutely. Over the course of those months, we never have 8 or 9. We have 8 or 9 every month. So yes.
Yeah. So I'm prepared for anything from, hey, we're up 100 students to, hey, we're down 100 students, or hey, we're about where we've been. I wouldn't be surprised by any of those 3 scenarios.
Yeah. And I think the mailer that was mailed out selling our district was a real plus as far as bringing more students into the district. And that remains to be seen, but I thought that was well done.
Yeah. I really think the pandemic is going to change a lot of dynamics for families. And, you guys all watch the news, and we're not to the stage where some of the big cities where you see folks living in tents on the street and things like that. So we do know there's going to be some doubling up of families that will occur due to the pandemic and the recession and the depression. And does that doubling up help us, hurt us as far as student enrollment? How long do they stay? And being able to get them up to speed as quickly as they can, because those are important years for kids in their growth and development to get the services that they need. So it's almost like hang on, for the 2020 school year will be unlike anything we've ever seen. So
Yeah.
And we might get a lot of kids that decide to homeschool depending on what decisions are made.
Correct. Yep. Homeschool. And then, one of the options that are, there's so many scenarios out there right now, schools continuing to work 100% stay-at-home model for some students who would be enrolled in the district, and some students would be 100% on our campus, depending on the different situations that each of them have. So being nimble, being flexible, and being patient and showing grace with ourselves, I think is going to be very important as we grow into the next school year.
That's all I have.
All right. So it's my recommendation that we approve the tentative working budget for 2021.
So move with the superintendent's recommendation.
I'll second it.
Okay, so Bernie moved and Diane seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right.
All right, the next is the approval of the superintendent evaluation. We've had discussions on this. It's there as an attachment. Evidence is noted there as well. So, I just want to say it's always a pleasure to work with this board and with our leadership team, with our community. I'm truly blessed to do what I love and to have the faith and confidence of the folks that we do. So, some of the highlights of this year, for me, have been the continued use of our mission statement. It's always great to see our school and our community using Inspire, Engage, and Grow. We started the year on a 5-star mission, and we like to say, the mission didn't change. It stayed the same. How we executed it did. So other highlights include we continue to expand opportunities for students in both buildings, whether it be in areas of special education and mental health, or in our health clinics, or at the high school with logistics and the different opportunities they have. We continue to look for ways to grow forward. We continued our district learning walks, providing feedback to teachers in their classrooms. We continued to be highly visible in our district, in our community. When I say we, I mean our entire leadership team. I would challenge any school community on visibility. Come down here and check us out around 7:30 a.m. You'll see a whole lot of administrative staff in action. So, and then well into the evening as well. It's not uncommon. I think there was a basketball game this season where I think we had about 7 or 8 district leaders in attendance. So, financially, I feel like, our negotiations, our collaboration with the city continued to be a real positive for us. Our city's here today using our school grounds and school campus. That relationship is super strong. I continue to work with Michael Giffen as we try to grow Dayton schools in the city together. So the work on the Manhattan Harbor project continues to be a focus for us. Continue to work with United Way, representing our school community on that. And kudos, I think sometimes we forget the execution on the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. I think it will be, I know it will be a legacy for this school board for years and years to come. I believe we're pushing 40% of the kids that are eligible for that program are getting books at their house. So kids need and deserve good books, and our partnership with the Campbell County Library has been fantastic. So you have there before you the superintendent evaluation.
So I need a motion to approve the superintendent evaluation.
So move to approve the superintendent's evaluation.
I'll second.
Bernie moved and Carrie seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
The next is the approval of Dell Financial Service leasing agreement. Casey
Did you
is on
skip
the
one,
line.
Mr. Brewer?
Oh, I did skip one. My bad. It's yeah.
All right.
It's like, woo. 7D, approval indirect costs
Yes.
for the school year. Trish is on here if we have any questions about that. Or maybe Trish can just, oh, no, okay. No, I'm COVID brain. This is indirect costs for food service. So we know every year we approve this. Basically, I like to say that our food service runs independently of the school board. And as if they were their own restaurant working within the school system. And when they're making a nice profit or a profit, we're able to charge them indirect costs, which is the heating and the lighting and the different things for having their, so to speak, restaurant inside of our school. So that would be the approval of the indirect rate costs for fiscal year 2020-21.
So I need a motion to approve this.
So move with the superintendent's recommendation.
I'll second that.
Bernie moved and Diane seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now,
All right, keep my alphabet in order here. 7E, approval of the Dell Financial Services leasing agreement. I just want to say hats off to Casey Woods. He's on here coordinating all this. We've always had the goal of getting one-to-one for our entire school system. We've been able to do that in phases and stages, at the first going 9 through 12 and then going 7 through 12. And then the pandemic has certainly showed us the urgency to do this district wide. So we are looking at an initiative for one-to-one devices throughout the district, which will total about $334,000. And that will bring new devices throughout the district. A lot of our contracts are up on our old devices, so we're turning them in, getting sales on those. We're also selling some of those back to the kids in our community, getting some good deals on those as well. So we're working through all kinds of different approaches to bring in 60 new iPads. So we have quite a few iPads already. So hats off to Heather Dragon and her crew. They've been building an arsenal of iPads up there. So we'll be going iPads K through 2. So we'll be needing 60 of those. A large amount of those funds are coming through our literacy grant. So what you're going to hear me say is we're pulling funds from a lot of different places to make this happen. So our work through the literacy grant allows us to do that. We're looking at 135 Chromebooks for the elementary school to round off what we need there, 3 through 6. Different funding sources for those are coming from some funds that remained in the technology funds from Lincoln. We had a donation of $10,000 from a local church when they closed their doors. So we're going to be using that. And then we're looking at the GEARS money, the CARES money, some CETS money to round that off. And then at the high school level, we'll be using Windows laptops for about 440 of those. And we've got monies left over from the school improvement grant, the ILA, that's the reading grant, and some other things, the sales of the current computers that we have, some ESS money to really drive that cost down for us. So what we're seeing here is Casey's great work to put together a 3-year leasing agreement for the Dell window laptops that we're going to need to move forward.
So I need a motion.
So move with the superintendent's recommendation.
I'll second.
Bernie moved and Carrie seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right.
Kind of the new word of the year. Again, at the beginning of the year, if anyone had said what NTI, I know we have a lot of acronyms in schools. I don't think any of us would have said that. Oh, that's non-traditional instruction. So we all know what that is now. So NTI, we do have an application that the state has pretty much, I don't want to say made us do, but anticipating the potential use of non-traditional instructional days for the 21 school year. At this point, the most we can do is 10. And that's the model that was originally put in for snow days and different things like that. So what you're going to have to see is some work at the legislative level to change some state laws if and when it is necessary to move away from that. So this application basically gives us the framework that would be necessary for the ability to flip the switch to go to, again, non-traditional instructional days. So appreciate Mr. Wolf's work really to put this together. KDE will review it, give us feedback. We expect feedback on that. And then the real next critical step that we have here is this is the framework for the House. It will be the work of the school and the school councils to really work on how do we get better at executing these NTI days. And here's the mystery of that. We don't know when these NTI days could start. Is it October 1st? Is it for 3 weeks? Is it November 1st? Is it for 3 months? It's really a guessing game. And again, we just have to stay nimble and prepared for that. So I will say a great focus at the beginning of the school year will be getting students up and running on their devices, the use of the Google Classroom, so that really at a moment's notice we can send them packing and continue to at least have the connections with students at home through the devices and those types of things. We've also been working with United Way. Excited to see United Way come to the table for families that don't have internet access. So they're working primarily right now. Their focus is along the River City school districts to provide access through United Way for families in need of that. So that's a piece of the puzzle that comes into providing devices for kids and all those types of things. So a lot of pieces coming into play. But you have before you your NTI instructional days. I know we got Mr. Wolf still on here if you guys have any questions about that. All right, so it's my recommendation we approve the 2021 non-traditional instructional application.
So move with the superintendent's recommendation.
I'll second it.
So Bernie moved and Diane seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And then I think we need one last motion making the agenda and attachments part of the official board meeting records.
So move.
I'll second it.
So Bernie moved and Carrie seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving onward. No communications, new business, unfinished business. You have your informational items for the site base. And if no one has anything else, I need a motion to adjourn.
Hearing for
Well,
delegate.
Yeah, we got the hearings of citizens and delegations.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got that.
Casey's got, I know it's all different.
So Lisa,
Casey
do
will
we
let
have
us
any
know.
hearings or citizens or delegations?
No, there's nothing right now. If anybody out there watching has any questions, comments, you can type them in. We'll give you a few seconds. Nothing is popping up.
Okay, then I need a motion to adjourn.
So move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Bernie moved and Diane seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then we are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, and stay
everybody.
healthy at home, stay healthy at work. And Bernie, best of luck here in the next, well,
Yes.
luck, but just
Yeah.
our thoughts and prayers are with you and your family, and hope this goes as well as it can for you. I think we've all been through similar situations, and it's never easy, especially when it's mom. So thoughts and
Exactly.
prayers with you. Yeah.
You think you're ready, but you're not.
Yeah,
Aye.
right.
Give Maddie a hug for me, Bernie.
Will do.